Hey, what is up, YouTube? So this video, I actually was thinking of doing a quick one for TikTok, but that's just not going to work. So, this is a pretty basic video. I've been building bows for a while and arrows, and I learned basically on YouTube, and then I've joined some groups and learned a lot from people there. So I figured I'll kind of share what I know. It's really basic, and I haven't spent a whole lot of money on tools. I'm just in my bedroom right now. It's wintertime. I can't really get out and work on my bows. So this will be my first video. I plan on getting way more into detail and doing like different types of arrows. And I have some bow build videos. There's a few of them. I have some bow build videos I started, and I just keep editing. And I think just whatever, it's at that point. This is far from perfect, but I'm just going to put it out there. And thanks for watching. Comment if there's anything else you needed to know or anything about tools or whatever. But I mean, that maybe under $500 worth of stuff that I've gathered over the years for arrows, and I'll do arrows more intricate and more primitive from this. So thanks for watching. Enjoy. I've heard a lot lately about making arrows from lumber store dowels, that it can't be done. I do it all the time. All these arrows right here, these are all made from dowels from the lumber store. Every one of these. I have a spine tester, so they're all spine tested. If you don't have a spine tester, I mean, just be careful. It's not too flimsy if you're shooting out of a 50-pound bow or above. But we're going to show you how to do it safely. We'll be making this arrow today. Alrighty, this is the most painstaking part of the process, but it's also very important that you do it to keep it safe. So we're going to find 3/8 poplar or pine. All right, and here we go. And this is about par for the course. I've been through their entire selection, at least of pine 3/8" dowels, and this is what we've got out of this. And you can see it's really straight grained. You want that to run the entire length if possible. If it has a couple runoffs, you're okay. Especially, see, like right here, we have a weird little knot thingy, but I'm gonna cut that off. So we're good, but you certainly don't want this. There's a great example. You do not want that. Or even, here's an example. See how that broke? See, you're gonna splinter off just like that. Chances are that's gonna happen right there. There's no guarantees with wood, man. Wood does some funny stuff, but just to take the least amount of risks possible. If you're going to go the dowel way, be sure to find straight grain that runs the entire length, if possible, just to play it safe, especially if you're going to use high weight bows. I mean, the ones I'm going to be shooting these out of are 50 pounds minimum. So alrighty, okay, gone through the lumber store, you found yourself some good shafts with minimal runoff. Now we're going to find the best spot, look for any defects, and just see where you're going to cut your arrow out. These are 48 inches, so I have a lot of play. I see this defect here where I got 2 runoffs, so I'm going to cut that out. And I'm going to run the length of the arrow and see where there's any runoff. Dude, this is a premium shaft. This is a premium shaft, man. Let's see if this one has anything. For example, I got lucky here. There was nothing in the pile except these 2 nearly perfect shafts. That is pretty rare. I'd usually find a few more out of a whole stack, but I usually won't even find any that are this good. So I got really few, but the ones I got were amazing. Okay, so we're going to decide. Oh, there we go. See, we have, I think that's just some kind of dirt, but we have a knot here. So we're going to cut that off. So we're going to go from this end. All right, so this end is going to be our knock. Great. All right, so we've been to the store. We've picked out our shafts. We found some ones with minimal grain runoff. Now, my arrows are going to be 30 inches long. I'm going to go 30 inches long on these. So we're going to find the best spot we want to cut off. We've established that. So I'm just going to cut these at 32. I want 30-inch arrows. I've actually already marked them. I just gummed up that film. So I'm going to mark them at 32. And that's just so my drill chuck doesn't mess up into the arrow itself. So there we go. Bow and finished arrows are just on here for attention. Can't believe I already finished these up and didn't do the first step. So you can cut them like this. A lot of people like cutting them like this, especially if it's bamboo. It's probably good to at least do one round like this. It's probably good just to do the outside so you don't tear at all. Where do we go? Where do we go? Move it out of one. And that was more hassle than it was worth, so I'm just going to use my Japanese pole saw. Love this thing. There we go. Okay, now we've got them cut. Now you're going to need some kind of rolling device. We're not going to straighten them all the way out right now, but we want the least wiggle we can have possible. So if you don't have a roller, you can use a flat surface. This is not flat. Or if you don't even have that and you're doing this completely by eye, go ahead and do it by eye. And then you can kind of just spin it in your palm and see. But we're going to use a roller. They're really cheap. I think I paid 10 bucks for this roller. I was going to make my own, and then I saw how cheap they were, and I decided it's definitely worth saving the time. And it's a game changer when you start making arrows. You need a roller. That's one thing you need. I think I've already mentioned this. I just modified a pulley. And what this does is it compresses the wood on this side. It was bent down, so now it's compressed here. That'll pull that in. So eventually that will be a permanent fix. As permanent as it gets. You do have to constantly tinker with wood arrows though. Getting better. See, I'll roll it on this side to check that side, and I can see a deep bend right here. We're gonna go like that. Yeah, they make tools for this that are like 60 bucks that are nothing more than just what you have in a pulley. Getting there. So if you have the option while you're at the lumber store, you can be picky and choose the straighter ones for less work, but the selection is so low as it is, trying to find no grain runoff, that beggars kind of can't be choosers. But yeah, if you have the option, I would definitely choose. You're choosing between two, I would choose the straightest for the least work possible. And this one is not being my friend. And again, we're going to run it through with a sander and a drill. So that's going to heat it up and straighten it out quite a bit on its own. We just want the least amount of wobble right now. And that is not beautiful. I'm going to do a little bit more and call it a day for now. We're going to hope that the heat from the sanding will fix the rest. I'll straighten this other one out and meet you in my backyard to sand these down. All right, so I'm just using, I have some multiple grits, but just a piece of 180 grit sandpaper just torn off. You're going to want to fold it so there's grit on the outside and the inside. Trust me, you want grip. It almost ripped my freaking finger off when it slipped the other day. Throw it in our chuck. Like I said, you're going to ruin a little bit of it, so just when you cut it, give yourself some extra space and just give it a few passes. And then once we've done that, we're going to want to give it a few passes longitudinally, just for looks, so we don't have all those scuffs going the other direction. And there you go. Nice and smooth. You get a much better view of the grain after doing that. So, there we go. Okay, we got them pretty close. Sending them outside. I'm going to do some touch-ups. We're probably going to do this process a few times during the whole process, this step. And I probably said that on this video before, but you just got to pay attention to your wood arrows. That is just a hair. Yeah, because after they take all that impact and they've been flexed around so much, they'll start bending. But that looks pretty good. So I tapered this end. We're going to cut that side. I'm going to cut these to 30. I have like 28-inch draw. 28, 29-inch draw. So I'm cutting it to 30. After I get my knot cut in and my head on, that'll be about a 29-inch draw. Mark that end. You'll see I have quite a bit. That's not the end. I want my arrowhead on. So you have quite a bit to go there. So I'm going to put it on here and get a good idea of center. And then I'm going to mark how far this is going to go into my arrow. And I'm just going to carve this to fit. If you do it this way, just be really careful. I like to take a little bit off of 4 sides and check. Just do 4 sides so you get a basic idea, and then go back around and just shave off the ridges ever so lightly. You want to keep yourself a good circle, and you want to keep it centered as well. So I like to sharpen multiple pocket knives, so I just switch. Oop. And if it starts peeling up, that started digging into the grain, a good way to stop it from peeling all the way through is just come back at it from the other direction and cut that off. So that was trying to peel out a big gouge. Same with right there. I cut under some grain there. So even with your draw knife, when you're making a bow, that's a good trick. If it starts digging in and starts peeling up a big chunk that you don't want out of there, you can always come back the other way and stop it from peeling. See, stop that right there. And I'm going to taper that tip a little bit, fit in my arrowhead a little better. This is probably not quite enough. You don't want to go too big, so just take your time. Take your time. Check continuously to see if it fits. Mark constantly. That is just there. That tip is just fitting in. So I'm going to kind of cram it there and mark it so I can see little lines. So I have a little guideline right there. Right there, you can see it. And then just continue. I'll get my pencil and spin it. Kind of anchor your hand down on something. so it's barely touching, and this'll mark your high spot, so you know where to remove more and less from. Unless you have a lathe or something, that would probably be a lot faster, but we're just going to continue this little process until we get it right. Oh, shit. Yeah, be careful not to go too deep. It's not the end of the world if you do. It's just much better to have a tight, snug fit, especially when you start putting your tip on, when you put your field point on, and you're straightening that out. You don't want too much play. And you don't want your glue to be doing all the work holding that thing in. And then I like to get to that point and just if you have a taper tool, you pretty much don't even need this step. Even if it's a little bit wide, as long as you can get your taper tool in there, it'll just mean that your arrowhead will sit flush, which nothing wrong with that. That's actually desirable when you're trying to pull it out of a target bag. So move it in, wiggle it around a little bit to get your mark. Just continue that. So I just carved off 4 sides, got a few ridges, carved them down to some more ridges, and now I'm just scraping the ridges off my knife to make it smooth. And you should spin it occasionally to make sure you're not getting too far off of center, because if it's not in the center, you're going to have a hell of a time centering it when you put your field tip on. See, so it only wants right there. A little bit off center. Don't do that in your mom's table. I made this table just for the purpose of beating up. I made it antiqued, so the more I beat it up, the cooler it looks, in my humble opinion. Let's see. We have a little bit further we can go. I don't want to cut too much off into the shaft, but we also don't want to make it an abrupt transition. We don't want a straight crack right there, or it's definitely going to break off. But I don't want to taper the front end of the arrow either. So I just make a pretty quick transition right there, but a transition nonetheless. We're not just going to have an abrupt edge right there because we don't want to create a weak spot. And there we have it. A little bit of play. But that is okay. We're going to need it when we straighten this tip. Pretty good though. Pretty good. That should be perfect by the time we glue it on. Against? Yes. With? No. Okay. Lost focus at the end. That's probably good for now, but long anyways. Careful when you're drilling to avoid this from happening. But if you do, just slow down and finish your knock. And we're gonna get some thin super glue injected in there. And just clamp that down and let it dry. And we're gonna hit the rest of those right there in a later step before we wrap them. And we'll just wrap it really good. That's good.
Americans live paycheck to paycheck. 76%, 66%. It seems like these numbers just keep going.
People are your problem now.
Yeah.
To the extent.
That's all. If you're doing wooden arrows, you want to look at the grain and find any runoffs. See this here, this is perfect. You want to make sure when you're shooting your bow, this runoff is going to go away from your hand if it were to break. So see, that's the point. You want that to go out. You don't want that to go into your hand. If it were to break, that's probably where it would break. You want the minimal amount of grain runoff. See, this is pretty good. There's only one spot where it even runs off in the whole arrow, so that's really good. And it doesn't even go through. That grain goes all the way down the shaft. So it's unlikely that it would, but if my string were to split through this and it spits that out, we want it on the left side. Since I'm right-handed, my left hand is going to be forward. We want it on the left side, so it's going to go away from my hand. My string is going to go just run down the middle of my hand and spit it out to the left. So be conscious of that whenever you're putting your fletchings on. That's about the biggest thing I can say with safety with making your own arrows. These are all white. These are all right wing feathers. I've dyed a few of them with food coloring. They're stupid looking right now. They're gonna straighten out when I glue them down, and then I'll show you a trick. You steam them and it'll fluff your arrows right up. But you need to use the same side. It doesn't matter. Some people have a preference, left or right wing. I don't care. I just happen to have this style of fletching right now. I ordered left, but they gave me right, so I had to dye my own cock feathers. So just be sure you use all right or all left on each arrow. So you can make 2 arrows left wing and 2 arrows right wing, and I have never seen a difference in flight. It doesn't even spin until it's a couple inches past your bow. So you can watch videos on it. Some people disagree, but I think it's retarded. It's just, they're the same. Just as long as you don't have 1 left and 2 right wings or vice versa on an arrow, then they'll do some weird stuff flying. I'll actually make a video of that just for fun. I like to do a little dab on the white side, the fat side of the feather. It just seems like it doesn't ever stick very well. So if you have E6000 or Shugu, that's the best because it's more flexible, but this is what I got right now. So I like to just fill in this little crack. There's always like a little space right here. Just fill that in a little bit. And I got me some activator. You obviously don't need to use this stuff, but I just discovered it and I think it's awesome. I already got one, I didn't skip one. You just want to cut those nubs off of the end. It's a step I like to do. They can really tear your hands up if they catch you, if you're shooting without a arrow shelf or arrow rest. And some of my bows are just off the knuckle. So, and just to make it look better, make it more of a smooth transition, I want to taper those edges pretty good. And this, I'll walk you through this step completely. So get your thread of choice. I just got this off of Amazon. I got a whole kit for like $7. Came with a bunch of curved needles and like 5 different colors of thread. This is just for, they're actually for braiding hair extensions in, but it's a thinner thread, so I like it. You just don't want to use sewing thread because it's too absorbent. It'll just soak your glue right up. So here we go. So you want to cut off a little extra piece. This is actually a technique called whipping, and you use it for all sorts of things. And here we go. I'm just going to take a wild guess and just cut a super long piece off. And just take a guess. Use quite a bit, but I seem to always overestimate. So, get off of me. Okay, so you're going to get your end. You're going to lay your end down with your thumb like so. And then you are going to wrap it around itself. So you're covering that little tag end you have right there. And just spin it like that, pretty tight. Once you have a few wraps, you can give that a little tug. And I like to pull it up after 5 or 6 wraps. Then just stick it up like that so you're no longer wrapping around it. So this is what we have. Come here. Okay, camera will not focus on that. Okay. Well, you can see, I apologize about the focus. Okay. You're going to continue wrapping until you get past. Well, actually, I'm sorry. I skipped a step. Give it a few wraps there. Now we're going to grab our extra piece that we cut off and fold it to a loop like so. You're going to put the loop on the bottom end towards where you're wrapping. So we're going like this, and now we're wrapping over the loop. And you still want it snug, but not too tight. It'll make it a lot harder when we get to this next step. So we're just going to continue wrapping till we reach our stopping point. nice and snug with each other so it's tight to it, but you don't want to pull it super tight. It'll make it really difficult to do this last step, and you'll see. We'll take care of that in a second. Oh yeah, I like that color. The color scheme looks good. Okay, maybe a couple wraps past the edge of your feathers. I'm gonna grab my needle nose pliers. They definitely help in this situation. Give it a snip. You want to go a couple inches past. Now, we're going to take the end of our string and put it through our loop, the spare piece of string that we've been wrapping over. We're going to pull that through there. And these ends of that loop, the extra string we put through, with that, we're going to pull our end back through where we've been wrapping. So now you have this, and it is wrapped over itself. Now kind of twist here and pull tight. Pull your first one tight. So you should have, oh, that broke off, that's fine. You should have two little tag ends like that from where you started and from where you finished. Just go ahead and cut those off. Where it broke off is kind of tricky because it's really short now. Don't be shaky. I've been drinking coffee all afternoon. So that's fine. I'll just fold it over. All right. And we're going to do that there. And we're also going to... There's lots of different ways. You can just look at other arrows and see what you like. We're just doing a simple wrap here for the front end of our fletchings, and then a wrap right here by the knock. Same thing. You're going to hold your end here right at the bottom of the knock. Wrap it around itself a couple times so it's not slipping around on you. There you go. Give it 3 or 4 over that loose end. Pull that up. You don't necessarily have to pull it up, but you can get it tighter if you do. You'll have something to pull on when you're done. Maybe give it 1 or 2 wraps. And then we're going to use our loose piece again. So we get our loose piece, just a loop of thread. Get. I'm going to cut that right now because it's bugging me. Get our loop. I like to kind of lay it against the feather right here, just so you have something to hold on to, and slip it in the knock right there so it just stays out of your way and it kind of holds it for you while you get started. And then at least 2 or 3. You don't have to go all the way. You can do whatever you want though. You don't need a whole lot. You just want this pretty tight. A few wraps right there, and I mean that's good enough that where we split one of these down the center, that's going to hold that together. It's going to have to break that thread, which is pretty damn hard. So let's do our little wrap right here. Snip it off. leaving a couple extra inches. We're going to pull through our loop again. I like to wrap it around the needle nose, just get a good grip, and pull through. Pull that tight. Make sure everything's snug. And cut off your ends. There we go. That is all wrapped up. One more step. You don't have to use gloves. I actually like that color scheme. Well, I just hate getting super glue off my fingers. If you like picking super glue off your fingers, there you go. You'll be entertained all day. And now we're going to put a couple dabs of super glue on it. You really don't have to saturate it. You can just do a dab here and a dab there where you started. And that should hold just fine. I like soaking the whole thing in super glue. It just feels more secure to me. And I kind of like the look. It makes it shiny and sleek. I like the look, and it just feels better to me. But by all means, you do not have to soak the whole thing in super glue. What I do like to do is rub the excess up these little channels between the fletchings right there. And this also is pretty important. You want to give a dab right here into the knock just to help. If you're using super thin glue, that helps. And here we enjoy the fruits of our labor. See how well they fly. And our shorties here. Those last ones flew really well. I was happy with it. There we go. Handcrafted lumber store dowel arrow. Knock's just a little bit tight. I think that'll break in though. If I have to, I'll just cut into it a little bit with my pocket knife. Flight looked pretty straight. I need some practice with this one. These short bows are a little tricky. They're a whole different style of shooting.